Hey everyone, throwaway account because some friends know my main. I never thought I'd be the guy typing something like this, but here we are. My wife Elle and I have been together for 7 years, married for 4. Up until a few months ago, I honestly thought we were solid. Nothing perfect, no marriage is, but we laughed a lot, fought very little, and had this unspoken rhythm to our lives that always made me feel like we were on the same team. Then the vibe shifted. It started small. She became snappy, not just stressed or annoyed, but almost looking for excuses to pick fights. If I asked how her day was, she'd roll her eyes like I'd asked something stupid. She started staying late at work more often, brushing off my questions with a cold "don't be controlling" or "I'm just tired, can you not?" I kept telling myself it was burnout, hormones, or maybe I was imagining things. But there was this gnawing feeling in my stomach that wouldn't go away, like something was off, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. If only I knew how deep that crack really ran. The first real "wait what?" moment happened on a random Tuesday. Elle had always been glued to her phone like most people, but suddenly she started guarding it like it contained nuclear launch codes. Screen always flipped down, notifications off, and if it buzzed, she'd snatch it up so fast you'd think it was about to self-destruct. One night, she was in the kitchen doing meal prep, and her phone lit up on the couch next to me. I glanced over instinctively, just a glow. Not even the text, and she practically teleported across the room to grab it. She snapped, "Can you not snoop? That's pathetic." I hadn't even moved. Then came the changes in appearance. She started dressing up for work in a way she never had before, new lingerie I'd never seen, perfume she used to say gave her headaches, and clothes that were, let's say, very obviously chosen for someone to admire. I wanted to ask you, who are you trying to impress? But every time I tried to talk about anything real, she'd dismiss me with some icy comment like, "You're being insecure again," or "Stop making up drama." I kept swallowing it all, telling myself to trust her, but those little red flags, they were about to turn into a full-blown emergency siren. The night everything really clicked into place wasn't dramatic at first, it was just weird. Elle told me she had a team dinner. No big deal, her job does those sometimes. But she came home at almost midnight, which was already unusual, and the second she walked in, she smelled like a mix of cheap cologne and mint gum. Not her cologne, not mine. And she never chews gum. When I asked how the dinner went, she froze for half a second, just long enough for me to notice, then launched into this rushed story about how everyone stayed late and how she didn't have time to text me because my phone died and nobody had a charger. Spoiler, there were 3 chargers in her purse. And then, right in the middle of this flimsy explanation, her phone buzzed. She jumped like she'd been electrocuted, grabbed it, and said, "Ugh, work stuff," without even looking at me. But I saw the name on the notification before she turned the screen away. Just one word, B. Not a coworker I recognized, not a friend, just an initial, like the kind you use when you don't want people to know who's texting you. I didn't say anything then. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like a physical punch, but I kept quiet. I needed to think. I needed to observe. I needed to be sure. Because in that moment, for the first time, I realized I might actually be living in a version of my life where my wife wasn't just distant. She was hiding something, and deep down, I already knew exactly what. Over the next week, things escalated fast. Elle suddenly had 2 more team dinners, back to back. She had come home overly cheerful in that fake way where the smile doesn't match the eyes, like she was performing normal wife on a stage. And every time, the same pattern. Phone glued to her hand, messages cleared, clothes smelling faintly like cologne. That nervous flicker in her eyes whenever I asked a basic question, but the real punch to the gut came on Friday. I was doing laundry because apparently her job made her too mentally drained to help anymore, and I found a receipt in the pocket of her jeans. Dinner for 2, at a restaurant she had always said was too romantic and cheesy for us. Time-stamped during her supposed overtime, and paid with her personal card. My hands were shaking holding the stupid little slip of paper. It felt surreal, like this wasn't my life, like this was something happening to another guy on Reddit. I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I didn't immediately confront her. I just sat on the edge of our bed and stared at that receipt for way too long, feeling something heavy settle into my chest, like the final puzzle piece had clicked into place. And the completed picture was something I never wanted to see, because now I didn't just suspect it. I knew. And once I knew, there was no going back. The breaking point came faster than I expected. 2 days after the receipt incident, Elle announced very casually, while scrolling on her phone, that she'd be going out again for another work thing. No eye contact, no explanation. Just this dismissive tone, like I was her annoying roommate instead of her husband. Something in me snapped a little. I didn't accuse her. I just said, "Oh, another one? That's a lot of work events lately." She didn't even pause. She tossed her hair, shrugged, and said, "Well, unlike you, I actually have a demanding job. Sorry if that bothers you." The disrespect in her voice hit harder than I expected. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. Like I was beneath her. Like I was in the way. And that's when I made the decision. I needed answers. Real ones. Not the half-baked excuses she kept throwing at me like scraps. So, while she went to take a shower before getting ready, I finally did what I'd been avoiding. I checked our phone bill, the detailed one from the provider. There it was. Pages of calls and messages to the same number. Dozens of them. At all hours. Mostly when she said she was at work late. My throat felt tight as I scrolled. It was like watching my marriage dissolve line by line. She walked out of the bathroom then, wrapped in a towel, humming like she had no care in the world. And I just sat there, phone bill in hand, feeling this quiet storm building inside me. I didn't confront her yet, but the decision was made. The next time she slipped up just one sigh was going to call it out. She didn't make me wait long. That same evening, while she was blow-drying her hair and getting dressed like she was going to a photo shoot, instead of a work function, her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and for once, she didn't hear it. I didn't touch the phone, I didn't need to. The preview lit up the whole screen. B. Leaving now. Can't wait. No work talk. No professional tone. Just that. 3 little words that hit harder than anything I'd seen so far. When she finally came back into the room, heels in one hand, lipstick in the other, she froze the second she saw me sitting there staring at the phone screen. Not touching it. Not snooping. Just looking. Her expression shifted instantly, annoyance first, then guilt, then this weird, brittle fake confidence. She snapped, "Why are you sitting there like that?" I kept my voice calm. I don't know how. I said, "Who's B?" She blinked twice, then gave me the fakest laugh I've ever heard. "Oh my God, seriously, it's work stuff. Stop being paranoid." But her face told a completely different story. She looked cornered, defensive, angry that she'd slipped, not sorry that she had. For the first time, I realized she wasn't just lying. She was good at it, practiced, and that scared me more than anything else. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just looked at her and said, "Show me the messages, then." Her whole body stiffened. She clutched her phone like I was trying to steal it, and her tone went sharp immediately. "No, I'm not entertaining this. You're being controlling and weird." Controlling. Weird. For asking to see a message from someone telling her can't wait. I repeated, still calm, "If it's work, show me." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Then she said the line that confirmed everything. "I don't have to prove anything to you." But she had to, and she knew it. I stood up and said, "Elle, I know about the dinners, the calls, the messages. I know you haven't been at work." For a moment, she went silent, completely still, like she'd been unplugged. Then came the explosion. She lashed out, accusing me of spying, of invading her privacy, of being emotionally manipulative. She threw every deflection tactic in the book at me so fast it felt rehearsed. At one point she actually said, "Maybe I'm texting a friend. Did you ever think of that? God, you're so insecure, it's embarrassing." A friend who tells her can't wait. A friend she hides messages from. A friend she buys dinner for at romantic restaurants. I finally said it out loud. "Just tell me the truth. Are you seeing someone else?" She froze again. Her mouth opened like she was about to lie, but nothing came out. That silence was the loudest answer she'd ever given me. When she finally spoke, it was the weakest attempt at denial I've ever heard. She sighed dramatically, crossed her arms, and said, "If you're so desperate for drama, fine. Yes, I've been talking to someone, but it's not what you think. Not what I think." The classic line. I asked, "Are you cheating?" She actually scoffed and said, "Wow, you're so obsessed with labels. It wasn't even serious. We were just talking, flirting, whatever, because I haven't felt appreciated here." There it was. The shift from denial to justification in one breath. She paced around the room, flinging excuses everywhere. "I was lonely. You don't understand me anymore." He listens. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It was harmless." All while conveniently avoiding the word affair. When I asked if they'd they'd met up, the dinners, the late nights, the cologne. She snapped. Why does that matter? You're missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture. Apparently that was my emotional unavailability, which was news to me because she'd never mentioned anything of the sort. Not once, not in 7 years together. She ended her rant by saying, "This wouldn't have happened if you paid more attention." That one hit like a punch. Not because I believed it, because she actually thought it was a valid excuse. And standing there, listening to her twist the story into something where she was the victim, I felt something inside me shift, something heavy, something final. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the realization that she wasn't even sorry. Something in me cracked right then, not in an explosive way, but in this quiet, hollow way that felt worse. I said, "Elle, you cheated. You lied. Just say it." She rolled her eyes again like I was being dramatic and muttered, "Fine. Whatever. If you want to call it cheating, then sure. Happy now?" Happy. Happy. The word made my skin crawl. I think she realized how cold that sounded, because she softened her voice and tried a different angle. She stepped closer and said, "Look, it's not a big deal. It wasn't serious. We can move past this if you just calm down." I wasn't yelling. I wasn't even angry at that moment. I was just done. I told her, "I don't think you understand the damage you've done." And she snapped right back into defensiveness. "Oh my God, you're blowing this out of proportion. It was just some attention. You act like I ruined your life." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she believed that. She genuinely thought I should shrug this off the way she apparently did. That's when the sadness hit me hard. Not because she cheated, though that hurt like hell, but because I was seeing who she really was. Maybe for the first time, someone who could betray me, lie to my face, blame me for it, and still expect me to be the one who calms down. Someone I didn't recognize anymore. Someone I couldn't trust. And once that truth settled in, everything else started unraveling. After that conversation, the house felt different, quiet, but not in a peaceful way. More like the calm after a building collapses and you're standing in the dust, trying to understand what just happened. She went into the living room and started getting ready to leave again, actually still planning to go out. After admitting she'd been cheating, I just sat on the bed, staring at the floor, feeling like my chest was full of broken glass. I didn't cry at first. I just felt numb. Numb at how easily she dismissed everything. Numb at how casually she tried to minimize it. Numb at how little she seemed to care about what she'd done to us. When she finally came back into the bedroom to grab her bag, I asked, "So you're going to see him?" She didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, and not going to cancel plans because you're having a meltdown." A meltdown. That's what she called it. Something inside me finally gave out. I didn't yell, but I did break down quietly, in a way I hope nobody ever has to experience. It wasn't just sadness, it was grief. Grief for the life I thought we had, the person I thought she was, the future I thought we were building. She watched me for a few seconds with this uncomfortable look, like I was inconveniencing her. Then she said, "I can't do this right now," and walked out the front door. I heard her car start. I heard her drive away. And I just sat there, alone in the dark, realizing that my marriage wasn't dying, it was already dead. The next few days were a blur. I barely ate, barely slept, and my brain kept replaying every single detail of her lies. I kept asking myself, was I blind this whole time? Did I ignore the signs? Was I too trusting? Every text ID ever sent, every effort I'd made to be a good husband started feeling meaningless. And the worst part, I kept picturing her with him, laughing, smiling, touching him the way she used to with me. The image stabbed at me like a knife I couldn't pull out. Friends tried to check in, but I pushed most of them away. I couldn't explain it without breaking down. When I did talk, it all came out in bursts. Anger, disbelief, shame, sadness. I felt trapped inside a storm of emotions that had no clear exit. I even considered confronting him, the guy she'd been cheating with, but a small voice in me said, "Don't. You don't need more chaos." So I stayed in the house, pacing, replaying her lies, wondering if I should scream at her, beg her, or just disappear for a while. It was exhausting, and humiliating, and lonely. But somewhere in all that mess, a quiet thought started creeping in. I can't stay here like this. I have to decide, either fight to fix this with her, or walk away. After what felt like endless pacing, crying, and replaying every insult and excuse she'd thrown at me, I realized something. This wasn't just about anger or heartbreak. It was about respect. And she had shown me she didn't have any for me or for what we had. I thought about staying, about trying counseling, working through it, whatever people say. But every scenario I imagined ended the same way. Me trying, bending over backward, and her continuing to lie, deflect, or blame me. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. I wasn't going to fight for someone who clearly didn't want to fight for me. I was walking away. I told her over the phone a few days later. She immediately switched tactics, gaslighting, fake remorse, even trying to guilt me with lines like, "I never realized how unhappy you were." I didn't argue. I didn't justify. I just said calmly, "I love you once, but I can't do this anymore. Goodbye." Hanging up, I felt an odd mix of relief and emptiness. Relief because I was finally standing up for myself, and emptiness because I loved her deeply and hoped, foolishly, that we could survive anything. But deep down, I knew this was the only way I could start healing. The first few weeks after leaving were surreal. I moved out temporarily, stayed with a friend, and spent hours just sitting in silence, letting my mind catch up with my heart. I deleted her from my phone, blocked her on social media, even avoided mutual friends for a while. At first, it felt like I was erasing part of my life, but slowly, it felt like I was reclaiming it. I started small things. Cooking for myself, going on long walks, journaling. Every step was clumsy, but it was progress. I realized that for the first time in years, I could breathe without worrying about what she was hiding or who she was lying to. I also allowed myself to grieve, not just for the betrayal, but for the future I thought I'd have. I cried more than I expected, yelled more than I expected, and even laughed occasionally when I remembered little moments before all the lies. It hurt like hell, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like me again. After months of healing, I started reflecting on everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I learned that trust isn't something you can force, it's earned every day. And when someone repeatedly lies, cheats, or dismisses your feelings, no amount of love will fix that. I also learned the importance of boundaries. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Staying would have meant sacrificing my self-respect. And I realized I could never rebuild a life with someone who didn't value me. And most surprisingly, I learned that heartbreak doesn't have to break you. You can be angry, sad, betrayed, and still find a way to rebuild stronger and wiser than before. I know some people reading this might still be in the storm, and I tell them this. You deserve honesty, you deserve respect, and you deserve a partner who chooses you every single day. Looking back, I can't say this experience didn't leave scars, they absolutely did. But I also can't say it didn't teach me something invaluable. I learned that love isn't enough if it isn't mutual. That trust, once broken, isn't a temporary bump, it's a roadblock. And that self-respect is worth more than any excuse, lie, or fleeting affection. I'm not angry all the time anymore. I still feel flashes of hurt, but they don't control me. I've started dating again, slowly, cautiously, but with a new sense of clarity. I know now what I deserve, and I won't settle for less. To anyone going through something similar, pay attention to the signs. Don't ignore your instincts, and above all, don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly bending for someone who refuses to meet you halfway. It hurts, it's messy, but leaving the betrayal behind is the first step toward finding peace, and maybe even happiness again. Thank you for listening to my story. Click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and have a good day, everyone.